Therefore, to him who knows to do good and does not do it, to him is sin. The couple left their barber shop and hat shop. They headed for Punta Santa Ana, Manila. They stayed in a room in a building where workers from the Atlantic Gulf and Pacific Company lived. The workers of that company listened to the teachings of God. The first converts were baptized in Pasig River during the first months of 1914. The first congregational worship service was held in the room of Engracia and Apolinario Ramos. When that room could no longer accommodate the members because their number increased, the place of worship was moved to the home of Brother Atanasio Morte, where the first Holy Supper was held. Brother Felix Manalo trained the brethren in missionary works. He also appointed some brethren to become church officers. The first locale was established, the locale of Punta Santa Ana. Afterwards, he preached in Tipas, Taguig, Rizal. As a result, the work of salvation was established in Taguig. But the members experienced persecution. They were mocked and insulted by the people there. In an evangelical mission, the persecutors brought with them a Protestant pastor. Indeed, those who go against the Sugo will be put to shame and be confounded. The religious discussions made what were called propaganda meetings more lively and served to attract more and more people. Brother Manalo encountered persecution everywhere, especially from the people from his hometown and his own relatives. Brother Felix Manalo was not discouraged. Despite trials and persecution, he did not stop preaching the true teachings of God. The locale of Tipas was established in the summer of 1914. A Filipino lawyer helped Brother Manalo register the Iglesia ni Cristo with the Philippine government. The Church of Christ was officially registered on July 27, 1914, the same date of the outbreak of the First World War. Brother Manalo also preached in downtown Pateros, and there he and his family lived in order to continue the work of the church. He preached in a propaganda meeting in Pasig, Rizal in 1915. As a result, the locales of Pulo and Rosario were established. In Tondo, his efforts to preach the gospel also bore much fruit. The locales of Dagupan, Gagalangin, and Sande were established. In order to administer fully the established locales, Brother Manalo taught and trained future ministers in the church. Because of this, the church spread to various places. In 1915, a centralized administration of the church was established, and the first central office was built on Deodato Street, Tondo, Manila. The central office was then moved to Sande Street in 1917, and it remained there until 1921. The first house of worship was built on Gabriela Street in 1918. It was made of bamboo and palm leaves. Brother Manalo did not stop from his labors. He continuously visited and officiated congregational worship services. The work of propagation also continued in various places. Because the number of members increased rapidly, he taught and trained more ministerial students while overseeing the work in the central office. In 1918, Brother Manalo established the first children's worship service for the brethren's young children. They were taught God's words in an easy and understandable manner by means of question and answer. In December 25, 1918, Brother Manalo was honored by the ministers of the Christian and Missionary Alliance as an outstanding evangelist. This award was presented to him in Teatro Gloria in Tondo, Manila. The first ordination of ministers in the Church of Christ was on May 1919. Brother Manalo ordained Brothers Justino Casanova and Federico Inocencio. Soon after, ecclesiastical districts were established. Pampanga, the first ecclesiastical district in the Philippines, was established in 1924. The establishment of other ecclesiastical districts in the provinces of Luzon followed: Tarlac, Laguna, Nueva Ecija, Zambales, Bulacan, Cavite, Pangasinan, Batangas, and Tayabas, Quezon. In March 28, 1931, Brother Manalo was awarded by the Genius Divinical College of Manila the title Master of Biblioscience Honoris Causa. This award serves as a testimony to the fact that non-members, even at that time, recognized the phenomenal growth of the Church of Christ. Because of the growing church membership, the Sugo attended to the construction of houses of worship, which at first were made of bamboo and nipa palm leaves. It was not long before wood and galvanized iron were used. And so that the words of God would reach many more people, Brother Manalo published the Pasugo magazine in February 1939. He himself served as the first editor-in-chief of this magazine. Then the Second World War began. During this time, Brother Felix and Sister Honorata had 6 children: Sister Pilar, Sister Avelina, Brother Dominador, Brother Salvador, Brother Iranio, and Brother Bienvenido. One day, Japanese soldiers stormed the house of worship in Tayuman, Tondo, while Brother Manalo was praying during a congregational worship service. Brother Manalo continued praying. To the amazement of the brethren, the Japanese soldiers just sat themselves on the pews with them until the congregational worship service ended. Despite the persecution and danger during the Japanese occupation, which lasted for almost 5 years, the church bravely continued on with the work to spread the gospel while other religions stopped. When the Second World War ended, the brethren gathered for special worship services in various provinces to thank God for keeping the church safe. Threats arose from the Hukbalahap, a communist group whose members believe that God does not exist. In 1945, they plotted to assassinate Brother Manalo in San Antonio, Lubao, Pampanga. However, Brother Felix had an accident when he was going down the stairway, and so he was not able to go where he had planned. On April 1, 1952, some women members of the Hukbalahap were sent to shoot him while he was preaching in a congregational worship service in Riverside. When the women were about to pull the triggers on their guns, their whole bodies began shaking uncontrollably. Soon afterwards, they turned themselves in to the police. The Hooks continued to harm the members of the church in the areas of Central Luzon. However, the persecution did not hinder the members of the church from upholding their calling. No matter what happened to them, the members continued to attend the congregational worship service and to fulfill the other works of the church. The first concrete house of worship was built in the locale of Washington in Sampaloc, Manila in 1948. After this was the construction of a concrete house of worship in the locale of Riverside, which is now F. Manalo in San Juan, Manila, which was dedicated to God in 1952. The houses of worship could no longer accommodate all the brethren because of the great increase in membership. Many more ecclesiastical districts were established throughout the Philippines. During this time also, more ministers and evangelical workers were trained and sent to administer the members, who were rapidly growing in number. In January 28, 1953, Brother Manalo summoned and presided over a meeting of all district ministers, because he knew the time would come that God would lay him to rest. An election was held. Brother Eranio G. Manalo was unanimously elected by the ministers to succeed Brother Felix as executive minister of the church. Brother Eranio G. Manalo was ordained as a minister on May 10, 1947. The Sugo trained Brother Eranio thoroughly in the work of administering the entire church. In August 1955, Brother Manalo became sick. Doctors advised him to rest. However, because of his duty, he continued to labor for the sake of the church. He conducted evangelical campaigns in town plazas. He traveled to different provinces in order to officiate congregational worship services. April 12, 1963. Having fulfilled the will of God with all his might, he finished his race.